The honourable member for Toronto Danforth.
Madam Chair, it's my pleasure to address the Committee of the Whole regarding the initiatives of the Department of Finance. I intend to speak for about 10 minutes and leave 5 minutes or so for questions. Je vous parlerai de deux préoccupations.
I will be speaking to you today about two pressing concerns that my constituents in Toronto Danforth have. The first of these concerns is income inequality, and the second is the way in which poverty affects men and women differently and how the government is working to address these concerns.
I was back in my riding during our various Constitution Weeks this spring. I had the opportunity to knock on doors, visit community centres in all of the neighbourhoods that make up Toronto Danforth. Our government tabled Budget 2016 back on March 22nd. Since that time, I've been having conversations about the work that we're doing here. I've been speaking to people about how we're legislating in Ottawa to help Canadians lead prosperous, healthy lives. Dans le cadre de mon travail de circonscription,
during the course of my riding work, I visited a number of social housing units and apartments that were rented to low-income Canadians. I met with families who were having difficulties making ends meet because of the high cost of life in Toronto. A number of them were people who had just arrived in Canada and who are in the process of learning a language and a culture that are different from the ones that they knew and experienced in their birth countries. Many of these people have children, but some also live alone. And these Canadians are facing difficulties. They live in poverty and they don't have a number of things that we take for granted. And they don't have these goods or these things because they can't pay for them. There are a large number of community organisations that are working in my riding to help poorer members of the community to improve their lives. For example, we have the mission known as St. John the Compassionate Mission, which provides food and offers programs to a number of people who are experiencing difficulties. There is a bakery as well that provides employment opportunities to those who would otherwise be marginalised and unable to find work.
Which offers family drop-in programming, after-school activities for children, and extensive newcomer orientation services. Wood Green Community Services also has a large presence in our community. They do important work helping people find affordable housing, get jobs, or improve their employability through various training programs. They even run a special program for single, female-led families who are having a hard time finding a place to live and a job. This program puts women through college while housing them and helping them care for their children. Mentionnons aussi l'organisation.
Allow me also to mention Classroom Connections, which is a highly innovative organisation headquartered in my riding and which is developing curricula for schools and for young people all around Canada. It has developed resources for young Aboriginal children, and this has helped engage them and offer them professional training opportunities.
It works towards helping alleviate some of the gender inequalities that are inherent in poverty is the Newcomer Women's Services of Toronto. Based in Toronto Danforth, this important organization has been providing help to newcomer women for more than 30 years. They all are there to provide employment, skills development, and settlement services for women. This empowering place is an important initiative that helps address the challenges women in particular face. De la même façon, le centre.
Similarly, we have the Massey Centre, which helps young women who are pregnant and who have children. The centre, which was set up in Toronto Danforth, helps vulnerable young mothers who require emotional support or social and economic support to help them raise their children. The centre understands the huge challenges that young mothers face, and so it aims to promote their autonomy, helping to make them independent by offering them secondary school education and teaching them other skills as well. The Canadian Child Benefit is also a measure that will have a direct effect for these young women and their lives.
It is one tool we're using to fight poverty and income inequality. This simple, tax-free benefit is directly targeted towards low and middle income families. Many of the families getting this benefit will see an average increase in child benefits of almost $2,300 in the 2016 to 2017 benefit year. The hope and aspiration is that the Canada Child Benefit will help lift some 300,000 children out of poverty this year alone.
9 families in 10 will get more money than they're getting at the moment thanks to the Canada Child Benefit. They will be getting more money because this money is they're not going to be getting it as a tax credit. If it were a tax credit, they would first have to spend money in order to get the advantage they were seeking. But instead, each family will get a benefit which they can use as they see fit. The Canada Child Benefit is an important example that shows just what importance the government places on helping families in need. I believe it is one of the most important strategic innovations we've seen for years. It's a game changer.
Seniors and older Canadians suffer from income inequality in disproportionately large numbers. When older Canadians leave the workforce, they often find themselves living in poverty. I know this from the time that I have spent meeting these seniors across my riding. I have been to teas and luncheons and other events at seniors' homes, churches, and community centres. At these important events, I have met older Canadians who tell me about their lives and the challenges that they face. En faisant du partage.
While going door to door in my riding, I've met many older people who live alone and who are struggling to pay for their apartment or their house. Employment of older people is a challenge. Well Seasons Productions is an initiative that comes from my riding. And it is a business, an entertainment business, that puts on theatre productions, and the actors and the professionals in these plays are all older than 50. The group offers employment opportunities to older artists and tells Canadian stories to celebrate the contribution of Canadians.
Perhaps not as dramatic as that undertaken by Well Seasoned Productions, is important. Recognizing that seniors sometimes are forced to live alone and that many of those single seniors are women, our government has committed to spending $3.4 billion over 5 years to lift low-income single seniors out of poverty. This is going to be accomplished through a significant increase to the Guaranteed Income Supplement top-up benefits. À compter de juillet de cette année,
from July of this year, the Guaranteed Income Supplement will go to up to $947 per year. This increase will help seniors who are only getting the old age security payment at the moment. Based on discussions that I've had in my riding, these are people who are facing poverty, a life in poverty, and this investment will allow us to protect these vulnerable older people against financial difficulty.
Highlight how these initiatives will have an important gendered impact. As I've already said, the most impoverished single seniors tend to be women. They will get a direct benefit from these important changes. Furthermore, although we know that the shape and size of families with children varies widely, there are nevertheless many female-led single-parent families in my riding and across Canada. The Canada Child Benefit is one very direct way that we can help these families and these women avoid economic marginalization. Madame le Président.
Madam Chair, thank you very much for having given me the opportunity to speak today. And I would be happy to ask some questions now to the Finance Minister. My first question then that I would like to ask is, and I'll switch to English.
Walk this committee, please, through the plans to provide more funding for affordable housing and the retrofits to existing affordable housing units. This is a big issue in my riding because we have many people who are in need of affordable housing. Toronto housing costs, as you know, are quite expensive. And it is an issue that has been forcing many people in my riding to have to find solutions. And they are looking to us for guidance as to what we can do to find these solutions. What are we doing to provide affordable housing? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Chair, I'd like to start by thanking the honourable member for her comments and for her question. We in Budget 2016 identified the issue around affordable housing as a critically important one for Canada and for Canadians across the country. We identified the fact that we wanted to make significant investments in social infrastructure. We recognize that the infrastructure, in particular around housing, is critical. So we laid out $3.4 billion of an infrastructure plan for affordable housing across the country. We know that that will improve the situation for Canadians that are struggling to get onto housing. We're going to start with retrofitting and renovating existing housing units and move forward with the building of new units that can really make a difference for those people that are underhoused in our communities.
The Honourable Member for Toronto Danforth.
And I thank the Minister of Finance for that answer. My next question is about infrastructure, because that is something that has come up time and time again when I have discussions with people in my riding. There is a feeling that infrastructure has been crumbling in our city, and then that we want to see, and I keep hearing about this, further investments to help build our country again. And so what I would like to know from the Minister of Finance is, what will be the effect of the government's infrastructure investments on Canadian families, on our environment? If perhaps he can provide us with some guidance as to what he sees as the impact of our infrastructure investments.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Well, Mr. Chair, again, I'd like to thank the member for her question. The investment in infrastructure is a critically important part of our plan. We recognize that it's important today to get people to work, but most importantly to ensure that we have the kind of country that provides the opportunity for people to be successful tomorrow, for people to get to and from their places of work in time, to get to work on time, as well to get back home to see their families, for people to have the kind of affordable housing they need, for people to actually be able to have clean water, because we need to have wastewater systems at work. So that's the reason that we put a significant focus on infrastructure spending on mass transit, infrastructure spending on social issues, infrastructure spending on wastewater systems that can make a real difference for families and for Canadians in the future.
The Honourable Member for Toronto Danforth.
And thank you, because that is something that's very important for people in my riding. So I really appreciate that answer, because infrastructure has become one of the key issues that I hear about day in and day out. But people are also looking at Canada on a more global scale as well. And so perhaps the Minister of Finance can assist in what are we doing to bring Canada back? What are we bringing to bring Canada back economically, in terms of innovation? What are we doing to build on where we can go to build a future and to show that Canada is a very strong country?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Madam Chair, we believe that it's critically important that Canada plays a very strong role in the global economy, as well as a very strong role as a member of the global community. We know that that can start with many actions, but we decided to make the very first decision by bringing in a significant number of Syrian refugees, recognizing the enormous challenge that refugees place on other countries in the world, and knowing that Canada needed to be a part of that. So we brought in 25,000 Syrian refugees. As part of the global community, we also recognize that Canada is a very desirable country, a place where people want to come. So we've made a commitment to invite 300,000 immigrants into our country this year, putting us at the forefront of efforts to allow people into our country in the global community. We also, Madam Chair, are working together with G7 and G20 countries on both taxation issues and economic issues to make sure that we can have a leadership place around the world in ensuring that we have a global infrastructure, a global financial infrastructure that works, that allows us to ensure that we can play a leadership role in that regard as well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay.